Fans, we are back live with another edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and we have a guest on tonight, a man who really made his mark in what was the basically the dying days of the territories. Most notably, although he's worked other places, which we'll get into, Portland Wrestling. What a tremendous company that was under Don Owen. We're going to get into all the facets of his career, and I would be speaking about the former tag team champion of the Pacific Northwest, TV champion. That would be John Rambo. John, before we get to right into the thick of things, as per the tradition here, this is an international podcast. I'm in Canada, but I must introduce Mr. Cheap Heat himself, now a bona fide public servant over in Ireland, and that would be Morris Shorthall. Morris, welcome to your show.
Thank you very much, Jack. And John, I have some internet issues here, but fear not, tomorrow is the day, guys, where the high-speed internet arrives at my house. So I can stream from here, because at the moment I'm streaming via Canada, from Ireland via Canada, across the world and wherever we may be. I know you're in the States as well, John. So international, but tomorrow I should have the broadband issue fixed once and for all.
So welcome, John. I think it would be appropriate to start off with, your particular segue into the wrestling business. Were you a fan growing up, and how did you make that decision that you wanted to pursue pro wrestling as an industry for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great one. I always enjoyed pro wrestling. When I was a kid in school, junior high school, high school, I used to catch all of it on TV. But the funny thing is, I never had a dream of becoming a pro wrestler. I was playing football. I was going to high school. I played college ball. So that's where I was leaning towards a football career. So I never really thought much of a pro wrestling career. I never went to a big wrestling event. And to this day, I've never attended a WWE event. Never had a wrestler's autograph, had a picture taken with the wrestler, never idolized a specific wrestler. I still never owned a wrestling figure. It was just something I enjoyed watching on TV, and it was a fluke that I got into it. I was working in the post office. After college, I got a good job with the post office and doing very well there. But I still remained going to the gym from playing ball. I loved working out. So I was always in the gym working out. And I happened to one day see a flyer in this Living Well Fitness Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania, of the Wild Samoan Pro Wrestling School that was going to be opening up in Whitehall, PA. And at the same time, I met Rocky Johnson, who was going to the same gym. We all lived in the same area, all within miles of each other. Alpha, Rocky, and myself. And I was one of them types of persons, still am, where if I want to do something, I want to do it right away. I don't want to have to wait. I don't want to have to wait for Alpha to open up his school, because he was still in the process of getting the building secure, welding a ring up, getting that all started. And Rocky came on and said, "Hey, if you really want to get going now," he says, "I'll train you." And I was like, "Wow, that sounds like a heck of a deal." And that's how it started with Rocky Johnson and myself. Little did I know at the time, because I didn't know Rocky at all. But people that do know Rocky or didn't know Rocky knew that he was quite a character. Quite a character. And the things about him you had to be careful with. And I didn't know this. And what I didn't know at the time was Rocky seeing me at a money meal ticket. He said, "Give me $3,500 cash, and I'll train you." And I came up with the money, clapped it down in front of him. His wife, Ata, even said, "You sure this is what you want to do, John?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And I didn't know Rocky's goal was to literally beat the shit out of me during training. hopes that I would quit, and he'd have an easy $3,500 he made without having to go training me, 3-4 days a week. And I wasn't that type of person to quit, and he seen that, so he had to stick with his obligation. He did train me to the best of his ability with what we had. We would go to the YMCA, work on the amateur mats that were there. Every now and then, if we could get to a show and get in the ring beforehand, get a little ring time in there that way. And that's basically how I did my training with Rocky. And he got me started down in Memphis, Tennessee. My very first match was down in Memphis, Tennessee. He called them up, because he knew them all down there. Eddie Marlin and Jerry Jarrett were running the territory at the time. And he bullshitted them, saying that he had a good kid that was working for 6 months, and I didn't work at all. And when I got down there, I was so green. I was greener than green. I was so bad. I had a great look. I was jacked up, 255 pounds of solid muscle at 6'3", 6'4", strong as hell. And I had the look. I had a great look, but just when that bell rang and I was in the ring, you could tell that I didn't know what I was doing. So I became like a 3-4 minute jobber in a territory that was loaded with exceptional talent. Memphis at that time, you had Jerry Lawler was booking. You had Austin Idol, Tracy Smothers, John Paul, Billy Travis, Undertaker at that time. Mark Callis was going as Tower of Pain, P.Y. Chu High, Ronnie Gossett, Tojo. Ooh, there were so many people down, great talent that, and here I am, this greenhorn. But it was a great learning experience for me. I wish I could have went there when I knew more. And I didn't last there that long because of how green I was, and the money was horrible. We were making anywhere from $15 to $30, $35 a night at that time. That's how it was back in the days.
Mm-hmm. One of your first recorded matches, at least on the encyclopedias of pro wrestling, was one that you had. I believe it was Brian Lee in the Mid-South Coliseum. Now, given that context that you just provided about being such a green person in the business, and how storied that venue was, the history dating back, decades. What stands out in your mind about that? Was that one heck of an intimidating experience for you to step into that venue?
Oh yeah, not only the venue, but Brian Lee himself. He was a big dude, big, good-looking athlete. And again, they didn't know anything about me, just by what Rocky Johnson told them. And so they were expecting to get, a fairly half-decent worker to step in the ring with Brian. And like I said, when that bell rang, I was supposed to do a Broadway. Going into that match, we were supposed to do a 10-minute Broadway. And I was like, wow, first match, I'm going to go to time limit with Brian Lee. And when that bell rang and they seen how green I was, Brian Lee said, just take the power slam and don't move, don't kick out. Because they had to get me out of there, because I didn't know what I was doing. And he hit me with the big power slam. 1, 2, 3. Well, I was so happy as a dog because I got like my first match out of the way, and I survived it. It didn't go the way I'd like it to, but it went.
John, what was the atmosphere like backstage then, when obviously you were sold then by Rocky Johnson as someone that had more experience, but then when you came in, as you said, like greener than grass, did that have any kind of negative impact on you backstage with the locker room then?
But believe it or not, out of all the names that I mentioned, Austin Idol was probably really the only one that was a dick with me. Everybody else was really cool. Jerry Lawler was so-so, but like Tracy Smothers was superb. A lot of the guys they seen that I was green, I needed help, they'd offer me tips, pointers, and this and that. Jeff Jarrett was really good at that too. Yeah, they seen that I had a passion for it, that I wanted to do it, but I needed a lot of work at it, and a lot of them offered help and assistance and great advice, which I did take. And but yeah, no, the whole atmosphere in the back, it was pretty cool. It was cool seeing hanging around these guys that I seen in magazines and on TV, and now here I am, I'm amongst them, and playing a part, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
You mentioned one of your opponents there in Memphis that, of course, jumps out right away, given his embryonic stage of his career, and that was the Undertaker in that gimmick, that early gimmick of his, the Tower of Pain. What are your recollection of working with him? Obviously, huge man, but also very, very green. And were you surprised later on when he became one of the the greatest of all time?
Oh yeah, Mark was another one that he was awesome. He was a good guy, very intimidating. You think that, oh wow, I'm going to go out in that ring and he's going to beat the shit out of me. And with how green I was, we're in the Louisville Gardens, the big Louisville Gardens arena, and again, a lot of history in that place. And they had me get. They had the match was I would get hit with a steel chair by Mark. He'd get disqualified and I'd get the win. So yeah, when he went on to become what he became, and I could sit back now and say, hey, one of my first matches was against Undertaker when he was in Tennessee, and I got the win. It would have been a cheesy win, but hey, I still got it. It's a lot of other people never did.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick segue and ad break into Undertaker's first opponent in WWF, Mario Mancini, is appearing this Saturday night in Jack's promotion, June 29th, Napanee, Ontario, Canada, for Great North Wrestling, coming out of retirement for one more match.
Yeah, I seen it on the Facebook. I was scrolling through, checking out the different things.
Aside from the product placement, anyway, I'm going to go back to you, John. I just thought that was a nice segue, as Jack would call it, throwing a little bit of a cheap plug, or a cheap pop, as Mick Foley would call it, for Saturday night. I just wanted to know about the training with Rocky Johnson, because training now for pro wrestlers is a lot different than what it was back then. So maybe for people that aren't aware, can you just kind of quickly summarize the process of things that Rocky will be doing with you, and in what kind of environment?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. The training back then was so much different than it is today. There was just as much emphasis put on getting your ass in the gym and hitting the weights and hitting them hard, and getting the physique going, get some size on you, and then going to the mat and learning the holds, the maneuvers, the reversals, the this and that's, and the stomping, the punching, the chopping, the kicks, everything. But just as much emphasis was put on the gym as it was training in the ring. And today you see so very little of that. You got guys today that are 165 pounds of world heavyweight champions in these leagues, where these promoters should be embarrassed for booking these guys, when there's so much talent out there that actually look like pro wrestlers. A lot of these wrestlers look like they belong sitting out in the seat with the fans, more than they look like pro wrestlers, and it's just gotten so out of hand. Well, hey, thank the internet for that.
Yeah, they talk about that a lot as being a quote unquote outmoded mindset, that an 80s mindset, that a wrestler should, when they, as McMahon used to say, walk into an airport, turn heads. And it does seem that the emphasis on that physicality and that having size, like not everybody's going to be, say, the Undertaker at 6'10", but to have some musculature to you seems to be something that's completely gone out the window. I know, and we'll jump down a bit here, but I know you had a very successful career as a trainer as well. But was that one of the aspects, even though by that point in time the tide was starting to turn, was that one of the aspects that you still emphasize with your students? Like, you need to look like a wrestler, like you could kick somebody's arse.
Oh, absolutely. Uh, at the school that I had in Maryland, I had a nice weight setup. I had good equipment, good weights, and we do contests in that. I'd have contests, see who could do the most with the weights and this and that. And yeah, no, it became something where the other guys that weren't really in the weightlifting would see the guys that were doing the weightlifting. It got them motivated into getting their ass into the gym and doing the same thing. But yeah, this you're talking about 1997 and on, and that's when it first gradually started to get to where almost anybody who wanted to be a pro wrestler could go join a school and become a pro wrestler because so many schools popped up everywhere. That was at a time when there were a lot of wrestlers, and a lot of them weren't getting work. A lot of them weren't wrestling at a lot of places, and the only time a lot of them could wrestle was if they held their own shows, and they did that, and they would start their own schools. They try to make the money. So it was like the blind leading the blind. You had guys that didn't do anything in the business training guys to become a pro wrestler, and like I would always say, how could somebody teach somebody to do something if they've never done it? You had to be there in order to teach someone else to get there. And yeah, that's around the time when things really started to gradually get in that direction where it finally went downhill with the whole business.
Speaking of the opposite end of that perspective, you caught the I guess it would be fair to say the wind up period of the in ring career of the legendary Ivan Koloff, and had quite a program with him, including those bloody and brutal Russian chain matches, etc. Could you just talk a bit about your because I've seen those matches and the chemistry is undeniable. Great old school stuff. How you first got to work with Ivan, and any standout memories of any of those matches.
Oh yeah, again, that working with Ivan, that was one of them situations where I was just at awe because here's another superstar that I used to watch on TV all the time, and now I'm in the ring with him. And not only am I in the ring with him, but he's putting me over in matches. Again, how green I was. Uh, yeah, he put me over for the to become the very first ever NWL heavyweight champion down in Maryland, and that's what really kickstarted my independent career and starting to build a name for myself to where I was able to advance to Portland and that. But yeah, it was really something getting to work with Ivan because he was a strong dude. He was another intimidating guy. Uh, Tough, very tough. Didn't take no shit. Uh, but again, he was old school, and he offered great help and great advice. If he seen that you had potential, he'd help you out. He was good that way. He was really good that way. He'd work with you, make you look good, and yeah, great guy, great guy.
I just got to kick back to the last point again that we talked about, like how you were saying that guys that look maybe like they should be belong in the crowd are now in the ring. Kind of a two-part question here. Like when you were going through the business in the early days, did you see a lot of steroids at that time? And then to flip it over, do you think that all that unwanted attention, we'll say, that WWF brought with that steroid trial in the mid 90s was kind of caused the detriment of the big physical wrestler to what we are now?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, the steroids were everywhere. The steroids were everywhere in the business. Uh, I never seen a steroid. Like I said, I played football at 275 pounds. I never seen a steroid. I didn't see a steroid till I hooked up with Rocky Johnson. uh, that's how I got. Excuse me. That's how I got jacked. In really good shape. Uh, but yeah, no. Everyone was doing something. Unless they had that big farm boy type gimmick or really heavy set to where they didn't need the muscle because they were already 300-400 pounds. But yeah, you regular guys like myself, everybody else, yeah, we were doing something. We were doing something. I'm not gonna lie about that. And yeah, I didn't really follow the trials that much when it happened WWF. But I do recall where like Hogan and them, they were denying it and denying. It don't take a genius to look at somebody tell that they're doing something. Even like today with the WWE, they're all doing something. They're all taking some kind of performance enhancing drugs for their muscles, whether they're doing it to get really huge or look ripped, or hard and solid. Everybody's taking something, and they're just but that's in everything. That you have that in football, you have that in baseball, you have it in swimming today. It's just what it is. It's part of the game, and that was something too that Vince would use that really to when he would bring in talent to see if people were willing to do that. That was a strong factor on signing guys. Like hey, are you willing to make yourself look bigger and better? You, you better say yeah if that's what you wanted to do, and that's what you would have to do to stay in competition with the other guys that are in there. You know, headlining, being the stars, and getting the big matches and that.
Wanted to ask you this question as well, and it's a two part. So if you need me to restate later, that's cool. I tend to conflate questions at times, but the persona that you became synonymous with, the John Rambo, aside from you were like a dead ringer for that character, especially in the movie First Blood. How did that come about for you, and were you at all skeptical or hesitant given what we see now lately? And this is a different time period, but fights over intellectual property and copyright, that sort of thing. Was that something that entered your mind? And secondly, you had a tremendous match with Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and what I understand to be in Vancouver for ECWA, the area where a lot of that film was shot. So, do you have any memories of either that match, working with Snuka, and then your persona?
Oh yeah, absolutely. After I had went down to Memphis, I started off as John Maxwell. I wasn't always John Rambo. I was John Maxwell, and that's what I was going to. John Maxwell, Silver Hammer. Take a Silver Hammer out, be a heel. But yeah, when I came back from Memphis, taking advice from the guys I got down there, they told me to get back home and pick up some more real training. And Offa had, like I said, by this time now, Offa had his school going in Whitehall, PA, and he knew Rocky really well. Their family. He knew the games Rocky would play, this and that, and Offa felt bad for what he did to me. So Offa invited me into his school with two other guys that were training there at the time, Neil Superior and Big Doug Stahl. Big Doug, who went on to be ECW Tag Team Champion with AJ Petrucci as the Super Destroyers. But it was there at Offa's school when I was there training to get more experience and this and that, where Neil said to me, he said, like Rambo. He said, you got to do a gig like that. And I was like, I don't know. I'll think about it. And he brought me down to his league down there in Maryland and to do some matches down there. And when I went down there, he In fact, before I went down there, I did take his advice. I switched my name to John Rambo. I got myself some gray spandex pants, black muscle shirt, had a black headband, and I was working shows for AFA. AFA's TWWF, Trans World Wrestling Federation League, and that really went over well. I started doing really well as John Rambo with AFA, and Neil brought me down to his league down there with his dad, Dick Karakoff. They were running the NWL. I went down there the very first time. Neil called me into his apartment, and on his bed he had sitting there a whole set of camouflage fatigues, the actual metal, the bulletproof jacket, the flak jacket, army boots that I had resold for Wrestling Soul. So he's the one that got me the whole camouflage Rambo gimmick set up, and I started doing it down there in Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and it took off. It took off. It unbelievable. I was in the main events when I should have probably been a Kirk Jericho or mid card wrestler. With again how green I was, how new, but and from working with AFA for the time, my work had improved a lot. So I was putting on pretty decent matches for only being a 1 year wrestler, and but yeah, I really took off, and I was concerned about the John Rambo gimmick, whether they'd come after me or not. So at that time, I went to an attorney that I knew here in Bethlehem, PA, and I questioned him, what should I do? I can't copyright a name that's already been out there. I said, what should I do? He do nothing. He said, let them come after you. He said, what are they going to do? Threaten you? They threaten you, you change your name then. But he said, if they come after you, that's a lot of exposure you're going to get. He said, let it go. So I let it go, and they never came after me. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I never had not one single repercussion or anything for using the name John Rambo. And that, to this day, blows my mind.
Let's hope they're not watching.
Well,
But how important though, John, do you think that was to get a gimmick? Because you said you were going into your second year, then you were still a little bit green. How much did the gimmick help you progress along? Because it was so important in the business those days, not so much these days. Everyone looks the same a lot of the time, and they're just black boots, black trunks. They're nearly all the same guy. But gimmicks was absolutely huge in wrestling, and still should be, in my opinion. But how important was that as an add-on to your lack of experience to kind of progress you on?
Well, once I started doing it, I felt like a different worker. I felt different. I felt like a pro wrestling character. I was picking up the charisma, and the fans would make a lot of positive comments. It went over well. It went over well. In fact, it went over so well that I was down there working for the NWL. I forget where. I think we were in Virginia, and we were doing a show, and on the card was Jacko Victory and who the heck was his partner? Oh, I forget. They were doing a big gimmick. I forget who the other guy was, but he was a big name. And they said, Rambo, you need to get into Portland, and where you're working steady, and really, really, really pick up the game. And right there at that show, they called Scotty the Body on the telephone for an intermission, and because they were good friends with Scotty, and they were telling them about me, and that's how I got to Portland. Scotty said, "Let's get him out here, and we'll get him going out here." And that's how I got my foot in the door in Portland wrestling. And like I said, I'm just a year in the business, and I'm going out to Portland wrestling with everybody out there who's either been in WWE, WWF, WCW, or was heading in that direction. You're talking about a time then when that territory You look at all the people that were in there: Ricky Santana, Al Madrill, Lynn Denton, Bill Sullivan, Davey Sullivan, uh, Scotty the Body, Steve Dahl, uh, Jimmy Snuka, Billy Jack Haynes. So man, everybody that was in Portland, uh, Bart Sawyer. Uh, if they hadn't already been in WWF, they all headed off to WWE or WCW, ECW, and I think honestly, I'm the only one that never did go that way. Uh, I always looked at it like, and I still say it, I was meant to be a superstar, but never went and became the superstar because with what I experienced in Portland, that being a TV territory and that, and learning the politics all behind everything, you know, inside the ring, outside the ring, in the locker room, hanging out with the right crowd. You want to be in the right stuff, this and that. It just opened my eyes as to wow, I go to an even bigger league. What's that game going to be like then? And I was offered. Lynn Denton offered to get me in the WCW while I was in Portland. I wasn't interested in going. When I had come back from Portland back east here, Alpha had offered to get me into WWF, WWE. I had them a few times contact me if I was interested. 97 through 98, ECW must have contacted me 5 different times to see if I wanted to get going there because a lot of the guys I worked with in Portland were at these other places, and my name and reputation spread around. And yeah, I was meant to be a superstar and didn't take it that route, and I honestly don't know many wrestlers that have done that. Most of them are in it to get on TV and become that big major, big time superstar. And but like what you said, it takes it back to the steroids. When I left Portland in '97, and when I seen if I was to go to WWE, I knew what I would have to do. I knew I would have to stay jacked up because when I was in Portland, I backed off of the shit. Early on in my career, in Portland, I noticed from taking the roids, my hair was starting to come out, and that scared me. Because here I have a gimmick where I look just like Rambo, and I'm going to lose hair. I'm not going to look like Rambo no more, So I backed off of the shit, and I did lose some size, but I still maintained a pretty decent physical look to me. Stayed athletic, stayed hitting the gym, and but yeah, when I thought, with all the shit that goes on, with the backstabbing and this and that in these TV territories, I just man, how bad it would have to be with WWF and WCW. And sure enough, you hear about the war stories today about all the bullshit that went on with these guys fighting with each other and the jealousy and the game playing and this and that. And I didn't want to get hooked up in that. I didn't want to get hooked up into where I'd have to continuously be on the roids. There's a lot of other stuff going on besides the roids with all the pills and this and that, the pain pills and the coke and all that bullshit. And I know how tempting that would be. And I just with that in my mind, and then getting offered the opportunity to take over the wrestling school in Maryland where I did go to, it was a no brainer for me to. I'm going to take that route. I'm going to train new guys coming in the business, train them the right way, make a name for myself that way. Start up an independent league where it's done properly, done right, or how it was supposed to be, old school style, hard hitting pro wrestling, and that's what I jumped on. My friend Neil, who had started me with the Rambo gimmick with the outfit, he had passed away in 1996. and he had a wrestling school in Hagerstown, Maryland. And I was tight with Neil. I was tight with his dad, Dick Karakoff, who just passed away a couple of years ago. And they had a hell of a thing going on down there in Hagerstown with the wrestling school and the National Wrestling League. And when Neil had passed away, Dick had contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in coming back east, back home, and taking over the school. And didn't take much to think about that. I said, yeah, I'd love to. Because by this time now, everything out in Portland, Oregon was pretty much dying off. You know, Don Owens had closed down. Sandy had pretty much ran his route as best as he could, tried to keep all the towns going that he was doing. We had TV in Vancouver, Washington. But yeah, it was a good time for me to get back east and you know do something that I really wanted to get into doing, and training guys with the school. That I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I did that because I brought in some really good talent into this business. Guys that I'm really proud of. Guys that trained at my school with me, going on to do great things. You got Luke Gallows, you know, WWE. You got God, so many different guys that are seen on SmackDown and Raw. You know, Brandon Scott. This is a phenomenal talent, Brandon. Uh, he started as an 18-year-old kid, 110 pounds, and built himself to a 200-pounder. And now he's involved with that pro wrestling musical that they got going on. I don't know if you've seen that. There's an actual Broadway play now called the Last Match. It's called The Last.
Wow.
Yeah, Matt Cardona is the main guy, isn't he?
What's that?
Matt Cardona, I think, was the main
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Alpha Jr. is one of the choreographers with the wrestling. My guy's Brandon. He's got a good character part in that. But yeah, no, they're training was a lot of fun. Training was a lot of fun. I got a lot out of it. It helped me too. You know, helped me become a better wrestler, and just something that, you know, there's times I regret I didn't take that route to be a TV superstar because I'd love to be doing these autograph sessions and these conventions and this and that, which I still think I should be doing them with all that I've done in my career. You know, I always hear fans say, "Oh, I used to read about you in Pro Wrestling Illustrated all the time. I remember you from Portland Wrestling. I remember this and that and this and that." But a lot of these promoters, because you're not a WWF superstar or WCW superstar or ECW superstar, they don't think you're worth a shit. You know what I mean? And that's wrong. That's wrong. You know, I got some great stories I could tell fans. You know, I got so many stories up the ass. Unbelievable. But yeah, no, but besides that, like I said, no regrets. The training the guys was great. And starting my own league was super because I started my league, the House of Pain Wrestling Federation. And when I started that, I was working real close with Alpha and Samu, and they were up in Whitehall. I was down in Hagerstown, and I started these school shows in Hagerstown where every Tuesday and Saturday I'd put on actual matches in the school. And that became so popular. We were packing 100 people in the school that shouldn't even fit that many. And Alpha and Sam were sending their students down because where else could you get experience like that at least twice a week? You know, working in front of a crowd. And this was at a time when, and still is, where Maryland has a very strict athletic commission. So they were always on my ass. You know, I'm running these shows. I called them training sessions. They were shows. You know, I just didn't charge admission. And in Maryland, you can't do no hardcore, no blood, this or that. And again, I took advantage of the opportunity that, hey, this is a training center. These guys are paying to learn how to do every type of wrestling there is, and that includes hardcore. So I'm doing barbed wire matches, weapons matches, bloody matches in the state of Maryland with no commission, on my ass because I can't, because I'm doing it as a training session, and things just took off so big with that. I've ran a couple shows up here since I left Maryland down there in 2020, and just this past March, I ran a show in Allentown, PA, and that was my 1,854th House of Pain show that
Nice.
put on. So I mean, all the talent over the years that took advantage of these training session shows at my House of Pain, and we also did road shows too. It was at the point where, we were doing 4, 5, 6 shows a month. Or I'm sorry, 10 to 12, counting the school shows, and there was no place like that anywhere else on the independent circuit. And a lot of the guys that did go on to become TV superstars, at one point or time, took advantage of the match shows that I was doing at the House of Pain. So yeah, it's been a wild route for me to, something that I got a lot to look back on and be proud of, and a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
One of the many legends that you work with in Portland was Billy Jack Haynes. Just wanted to get your impression of his recent legal troubles and any memories of working with Billy that stand out in your mind.
Oh yeah, Billy was a scary dude. Billy was a legit scary, tough, badass dude. You don't want to fuck with Billy. I'll tell you that right now. You didn't want to fuck with Billy. He'd kill you and not think nothing of it. At one time, our bar was a little fucking instigator at times. Like to stir shit. I was talking in the locker room again, probably something I shouldn't have done. It's just a lot of times you just keep your mouth shut and listen. But we're just bullshitting, and somebody had said something about, they're bringing Bill Jack back to he's going to main event for us. Hopefully that'll pick the crowd back up. And everything was so bad at that time. This is when the crowds were really starting to die. And I said, I don't care if they bring in Hulk Hogan. I said, they're not going to pack this place like they used to. And doesn't Art go and tell Billy, hey, Rambo said you can't draw shit. So here we go. I show up for a Saturday TV, and we're getting ready in the locker room, and I'm sitting there getting ready, and Billy Jackson, hey, Rambo, come here. And he takes me back in the bathroom. And I'm like, what's this about? He says, what's this shit you telling everybody that I can't fucking draw shit? I said, whoa. I said, I never said nothing like that. I told him exactly what I said, this and that. He said, yeah. He said, I'm going to kick your fucking ass. Whatever, Billy. We go out and they tell me I'm going to be working Billy in a match that night on TV. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. This is going to be fun. And my style was a martial arts. A lot of martial arts I did in my style. Because I was a legit black belt in Taekwondo. And Billy and I were talking over the match. He said, yeah, go for that kick. He says, I'm going to give you a low blow. He says, and we'll take it from there. He said, just watch yourself out there. All right. Well, whatever. And we went out there. I'll tell you what, he worked me like a pro. He didn't fuck with me. He didn't stiff me. I gave him some kicks. I went for the big kick. He gave me a nice working low blow. Slapped the full Nelson on me. Worked the full Nelson really, really nice. We went back. He shook my hand. It's a good match, kid. But yeah, I thought I was going to have a battle out in the ring with Billy, and that you don't want to do, like I said, because he was 285 pounds, and Billy knows how to fight. He was a amateur Golden Gloves boxer, so yeah, you don't want to fuck with Billy. But yeah, no, his health started to go downhill pretty bad the later years now, and from what I understand is he had hooked up with a woman he got married. She was supposedly like 20 years his elder, in her 80s, and he's in his 60s, and yeah, shot and killed her out there in Portland. But I heard that it was a mercy killing. That she was so far gone and really out of it that he did it as a mercy killing, not just something where he murdered his wife. He thought doing the right thing, as sick as it sounds. But yeah, now yeah, he's sitting in jail for that.
Tragedy.
Yeah.
John, if you were to pick some standout and favorite opponents from your career, who would they be?
Oh God, I did great work with Mick Foley. We had great together. A well-known in this area, I don't know how popular he is with the fans, but a guy named the Matt Russian Gill. He was a great talent, fun to work with. Morgus the Maniac. But the big names were a lot of fun. Ivan was fun. Nick Volkov was fun. I did a heck of a good program with Brickhouse Brown. He was a hell of a good worker. Steve Dahl was a good worker. Did a lot of work with and against Samu, head shrinker Samu. Yeah, there's just about anybody that I would say that was a TV superstar, and I worked them. I had fun with them. Iron Sheik, he was a lot of fun. Outlaw Ron Bass. I got to do some tag work with Kerry Von Erich. So yeah, it was again. It was that awe of wow. I remember these guys from TV, and now here I am doing it with them and doing it good, and hell of a reaction from the crowd, and it was tough.
A fan on social media wanted to ask if you had any stories or recollections of another fixture of Portland wrestling who always seemed to remain loyal to Don Owen, and that would be Roddy Piper.
Piper was a good guy. I got to do a Jerry Lewis Liberty telethon with Piper, Steve Dahl, Scotty Norton, Big Scott Norton. I forget who else was in on that. Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, he was another one that was a lot of help in the locker room in Portland. He would come in, but even though he wasn't working the shows and doing a match or anything, he'd be in the back and he'd give you good advice. He took my buddy Bart Sawyer under his wing, and really helped Bart out a lot. Got him a WWE developmental contract. Bart didn't even have to show up, and they were sending him money every month. They got him in one of his movies with a small part fight scene. Yeah, Piper was a good guy. He was a good guy.
Was there ever anyone, John, that sticks out in your mind looking back on your career that I know you said you didn't watch a lot of wrestling before you started, but looking back on it now, was there anyone that you wished you got in the ring with that you didn't get the chance to?
Yeah, not really because there's so many. King Kong Bundy. I worked a hell of a program with King Kong Bundy on the circuit. Uh, there ain't too many that I didn't. I haven't been in the ring with over the years. The few that I never got in the ring with Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. Uh, but other than that, there's so many that it's. In Patera, I remember, when I was just starting off. God, there's just so many big names that it blows my mind. Like I said, to think of all these guys that I did get in the ring with, that I did hang out with, in locker rooms, sharing locker rooms together, and at that point then where I became good at what I was doing, it really blows your mind.
You mentioned some of the names that you had tag team experience with, including Samu. You did some with Kerry Von Erich, Scott Norton, Nikolai Volkov, but you had a championship team with Colonel De Beers, and I wanted to get your impression of that gimmick. It was extremely controversial at the time. I know AWA Television, when he was doing the shots with them, and the Showboat would censor some of his comments. How did you feel about that? And then the second part of that question is, because you've done a lot of tag team work, did you prefer that to being a single, or what do you believe was the best role for you?
I enjoyed tagging, but I think singles was more my forte. Uh, but yeah, no, I'm glad I did do the tagging that I did. But Colonel the Beers, Ed crazy. It scared me. His mouth scared me because he would say anything at any time. And when we're running Portland at the Portland Sports Arena, the House of Action, we're just blocks away from the projects in Portland, and he's talking this shit. He did and bad racial shit. He would talk. Uh, yeah, he wouldn't hold back. And there was a point in time where they had to stick security out in the parking lot because every week somebody was sticking nails and screws in my car tire, because of his mouth. I stayed away from it. I'm not adding to the fire. He's doing enough of it. And yeah, he scared the shit out of me. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna get a shot. It's crazy. Crazy.
Literally.
Any Iron Sheik stories, John?
Oh god, Iron Sheik, man. I got so many Iron Sheik stories, but I don't know if they're appropriate to tell.
You could say whatever you want here, John.
Out of gone.
It's 5 to 11 now at night time in Ireland. The watershed's gone.
Yeah, they're like when we're traveling on the road, hanging out. The boys like to have fun. We like to party. We like to have fun. And well, more today now, it's not a big thing. But everybody used to smoke weed. Yeah, that was a given. Nobody gave a shit. And we're overseas doing the tour of the South Pacific. I'm going through Guam, Saipan, Ponape, Palau, the Marshall Islands, the whole stretch in the South Pacific. No matter where we went, I don't know how, why, but people always came up to me, "Hey, what's the weed? What's the weed?" So I was always like having people come in and offer me this shit, and it got to the point where I would take it, and everybody knew I was getting it, so they all came flocking to me. Hey, Rambo, hook me up. Rambo, hook me up. Rambo, hook me up. Where I forget one of the Hawaiian islands. Uh, Shiki gets something from a bellhop or whatever at the hotel, and they took him for a ride. What they did was they took oregano and they mixed it with Elmer's glue and rolled it up, and it looked like my nice nugs of Hawaiian weed. And they gave it to him, and he took it back to his room and he's smoking it, and like, this is bullshit, bullshit. He goes, "Hey Rambo, come here. I'm going to give you something. Next time you get something, you take Kirishiki." So he gives it to me, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, wow, that looks pretty good. And I take it, I go back to my room, I roll a little bit up, light it, and Big Doug Stahl was my roommate at the time. He said, "What the fuck?" He said, "It smells like pizza." I said, "I know, this is fucking oregano." I said, "That motherfucker's giving me bullshit." So then when I did get something good, I wouldn't give him the sheik, and he got so pissed off. Fucking jabroni, you fucking jabroni. And then wrestle him. And it's funny because I got this thing going on now on the internet with that Hot 2 girl, whatever. I don't know if you've seen that. And, that was his gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, this son of a bitch would actually lay a fucking big loogie on you. He'd spit on your chest. All with that pissed me off. I was like, motherfucker. So yeah, every time you wrestled him, you had that. You knew you were getting fucking hawkered on, and like I said, that would just burn me up. And Shiki's one of them dudes where, again, another one, you don't want to fuck with him. You're a tough dude, you know. You get in a fight with Shiki, and even if you win, you ain't gonna win because you're both gonna get hurt, you know. And but yeah, he was funny as shit. He was just a character.
Well, John, we've ripped through the hour here, but I wanted to ask you if where the fans can find you on social media, any projects that you have going on, not necessarily wrestling or not, but if you had to boil it down to a bottom line, what would be the most your proudest accomplishment in the wrestling business?
Oh, my best accomplishment, I guess, probably would have to say that the good talent that I did train and bring into the business, because they're the ones keeping it going. Like I said, I retired from my school in 2020. I turned it over to three of my top graduates. They're running it now, still, the House of Pain down in Chambersburg, Maryland. They got it going. They're doing monthly shows. So yeah, we got a hell of a legacy that we built, and a lot of people remember and know the House of Pain. A lot of respect built off of the House of Pain. My time in Portland was very special for me too, because that was a hell of a territory. That was one heck of a territory where, I said, all the best went through there at one point or time, and I'm proud to be a part of that. Because not only did I get there, I survived there, and I did well. I excelled there. I went from being a newbie coming in there to a main eventer and a title holder. And that just great time. Great time working for Don. Don Owens was super. Sandy Barr was a good guy. Yeah.
And didn't you have the last TV match ever for Portland Wrestling? That's for the history books in and of itself.
Yeah, that there too. The very last show that aired on KPTV 12 in Portland, as we before we went off the air forever, it was Ron Harris, the Blues Brothers, big Ron Harris, Ron and Don Harris. Yeah, Ron Harris and myself was the very last ever Portland wrestling match.
Where can the fans keep up with you on social media? I know you have a Facebook and any other platforms.
No,
please.
I'm just on Facebook, but they could catch me at John Rambo on Facebook. Uh, I got things working, tossing around in my mind yet. Uh, I just hold a big tournament, 2 rings, 40 wrestlers, 23 matches. Winner would get a big 6'4" trophy in honor of Neil Superior, and I call that the Lord of the Rings Neil Superior Memorial Cup event. And yeah, I'd like to do another one or two of those yet before I totally pack it in. Uh, yeah, that's a special event. But yeah, you could keep up with me on John Rambo, Facebook. Uh, I'm really into cooking, so if you like food, uh, good place to hook up with me and get some of my cooking ideas and recipes, and I'll have a lot of fun.
I like food, John. I wouldn't eat anything else. It's amazing.
Keep it keep an eye on my Facebook. Check out the fruit
Yeah.
salad I just posted today.
And I tell you one thing before we do wrap up is like I think that you're one of the most selfless wrestlers that I've ever spoken to. A man that didn't take the opportunity to go to the big companies ultimately to look after himself and then in the future to look after students. So you should be credited for that.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. That really does.
Well, thanks again, John. We will keep in touch and keep on top of everything that you have going on, and hopefully do this again. But thank you for your time this evening, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, I got stories up the ass. We could sit and do this a few times over. And yeah, we'll have a lot of fun. Yeah. Let's work on another one sometime.
Love
Yeah.
to do that. Well, take care and talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Well,
Wow.
Morris, what a guy, eh? What a as you said, a selfless, humble, down to earth, and you know what? You hit the nail on the head. He his gimmick, his persona, his look, his work rate, everything was there. He could have most definitely had a run in one of the big companies.
But you kind of sometimes you need an ego to go into those companies, don't you?
True, and
You've been muted. Can you hear me? Yeah, you've been muted. Very strange. Actually, I'm within the system now as well. If you want to pop out and pop back in.
how about now? Can you hear me?
Yep, you're back. You're back.
Okay, great. I just wanted to say, since you brought up egos, and the show that we have, Great North Wrestling, returns to the Napanee area with the Great North Wrestling Napanee Schools Out Slam this Saturday, 2 days away, and we're really looking forward to that. Mario Mancini, as you touched on earlier, is coming up for his final match ever, along with just an amazing selection of Paradise Alley pro wrestling talent. Pretty Paul Roma is going to be there. Meet the fans, sign some autographs. Tickets are on sale for that at ticketweb.ca, but we will have them at the door. We're featuring also the return of in-ring action for Hannibal, the Blood Hunter, for a mystery opponent. ECW original, my friend Angel Medina will be appearing and putting up his hardcore road trip title against Derek Roy, Big Daddy Roy. I think he's going to get whooped in that. I told him that. He's taking him too lightly. But I wanted to take just a second to talk about one of the main events. And I apologize to you and the fans if I'm coming across as distracted, because quite frankly, I'm troubled. I'm on one hand really excited about the show. We're counting down. It's going to definitely be one of the most exciting events that I've promoted. We're live streaming it on the HannibalTV.com. So make sure you subscribe there if you're not there. But I'm distracted and troubled because of that absolutely egomaniacal, vicious rule breaker, Rene Dupree, who was on having an interview with you, such as it was a couple days ago. He's quite a busy man. He's a superstar. He's all these things, but he once again went on the Hannibal TV last night, had an interview with Hannibal, and he threatened to physically assault me again. He showed no remorse whatsoever for what he did in Renfrew with my briefcase concussing me. He thought it was a joke. And he said, if I want to get involved, quote unquote, in his match again, that he's going to knock me out again. Well, rather than me go on about Rene Dupree and how his entire good guy persona is a fraud, I think he's done a lot to bury himself as the completely unsportsmanlike, unscrupulous individual that he is. Here he is coming on a huge platform and threatening once again to assault me physically. Now, fortunately, and again, he was talking about the prodigy Nathan Banner as if he did not know basically who Nathan Banner was in his track record. He had extensive tours in Japan. He made his living in Japan. He is a 6'5", 325-pound monster, and he's working for me. He's a member of the big money players. And the reason I brought him on was just this sort of talk, just this sort of uncalled for behavior in the pro wrestling business. And I'm going to sum it up really, really quickly and succinctly. The facility, the Strathcona Paper Center, where the show is happening on Saturday, is a mere 10 minutes away from the hospital. And Renee, you're going to be taking that ride. You're going to be taking that ride to the medical facility for some form of treatment, because Nathan Banner is upset with your comments. I'm upset with your comments. And you have got a real rude awakening coming. I know you're booked in Europe. You've got all these big plans, but you better cancel them, pal, because you don't get away with what you did and are threatening to do. You better have your affairs in order. And I mean that. You're not going to walk out of Napanee unscathed. We can forget about your design on the Canadian title. That's not even going to be an issue. You have once again put fuel on the fire and crossed that line. So come Saturday, it's going to be done for you in Great North Wrestling, but probably the business. So I hope it was worth it. I hope that your sheer ego and your complete lack of appreciation for any sort of decorum in this business was worth it, because you're finished. I will stake my reputation on that. You are finished. So all the threats and everything, I'm going to have a 6'5", 325-pound monster right there, and you're not getting past him. So I apologize to you, Morris, and I apologize to the fans if I seem distracted today, but it's a little disconcerting given what he did in November to hear this out of his mouth again. But I've got an insurance policy and a problem solver, and it is this man right here, the prodigy, Nathan Banner. So I know you're going to be checking the show out from over there in the Emerald Isle, etc. Are you, aside from Mario's match, what are you looking forward to? Are you looking forward to the end of Rene Dupree?
A lot of fans over here are looking forward to potentially Mr. Dupree coming back to OTT wrestling, but I'll inform them on your behalf that that's not going to be happening now.
Did they pay a deposit?
I don't know if there's anything been signed, sealed, and delivered yet. I think he said it was going to be towards the end of the year, November. So I guess
Okay, so
maybe
maybe
that
there isn't a deposit at play there,
yeah.
because I'd hate for a fellow independent company of great repute to lose that money.
We could change the name on the flights maybe to someone else.
Yeah, well, that's probably a good idea. But fans, if you're watching live, go to ticketweb.ca, Strathcona Paper Center for the Napanee Schools Out Slam GNW. The response from the community has just been fabulous. It's just unfortunate that it has been, at least for me, dampened a little bit by the ongoing. Here's a guy that also talked about being bullied in the WWF, and Hardcore Holly gave him such a bad time, and blah blah blah. Well, now the tables have turned, and he's the bully. But
what time is this event kicking off at live on YouTube?
we will be going live, knock on wood, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Doors will open at 6 p.m. for a meet and greet. And I know a lot of the fans are really looking forward to seeing Mario and Paul. And that will be a big highlight of the show, having them in my promotion and giving the fans the opportunity to meet them, because they're unlike Rene Dupree. They are quality people and professionals, and there's a tremendous amount of interest in seeing them.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And actually, that suits me. Then it's going to be midnight my time. The show is going to go on for what, just over 2 hours, maybe a bit longer.
Well, man, we've got a loaded card. We've got about 8 matches, including as a late signing, the reigning and defending MMA Montreal champion by the name of Black Dragon. This dude is 6'9". He's a monster. He's huge. He is coming back to pro wrestling, and he's going to be wrestling on the Schools Out Slam, plus ladies action, and so many other great bouts. I'm very, very, it's been a lot of work, but it will all be worth it, especially when that ambulance door shuts and it takes that piece of garbage Rene Dupree off to wherever he's going to go, and the big money players will be going on to bigger and better things.
Excellent.
Well, I want to again thank you for having me on tonight. I know I'm not 100%, but we're looking forward to getting back on track and lining up a lot more excellent interviews, such as Mr. Rambo that we had on today. Do you have any closing thoughts, sir?
Yes, I think next week I'm going to have a look at my dates here, and we're going to get on. Well, obviously you're going to be here, but we're going to get on Mario Mancini, and we can kind of do a recap of how you guys get along this weekend. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and we'll have we'll have some still shots from the show to show people, and I'm going to be out there front and center with the mobile cam from the time they load Rene up on the stretcher and take him out and load him up onto the ambulance when it goes away. So we'll have a lot to talk about for sure.
Excellent. Enjoy the show, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much. And fans, that's it for this edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and like, and we will see you once again.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel if at all possible. It would really help